Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Program, it's hour number 2. Congratulations, you found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine. The phone number, call us, text us, 870-275-9799. I want to welcome to the program a man by the name of Bobby Long. Bobby, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. Glad that you're with us. Now, this time, 24 hours ago, we were playing your speech. Bobby Long is a Jonesboro alderman or city councilman. What ward do you represent?
Ward 6, position 1.
Okay. When did you first hear that the Jonesboro City Council was going to try to do the Municipal League's bidding and pass a resolution urging Asa Hutchinson to call a special session to increase or create a new internet tax?
About, I guess, 3 to 4 days prior to the meeting. You know, they'd already done one resolution before that was going to our federal our senators.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'd already done one, and I was the sole opposition to that resolution. I wasn't as prepared as I was the other night, though.
Okay.
And when I figured that out, you know, I thought, yeah, I've got to speak up against that.
The sole opposition then. Last night, though, it did, or two nights ago, it passed 8-4. So you and 3 other colleagues voted against that. Who are those 3 other colleagues?
Gosh, I can't remember offhand.
Okay, well, that's okay. We can get it later.
The first time, though, I was the only one that voted no for the first one. So I think we're making headway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, apparently something I said or something that they had realized in between the last one and this one, you know, got them to come around to reason, you know, and vote against this resolution.
I think maybe one of the reasons is your side comment there when they got ready to vote, or I think it was just kind of a transition. It was after the mayor's comments, who's supportive of this measure, and you said, "I just want to make the point that this resolution or this idea failed in the General Assembly in the last session just a few months ago." What do you make of that when you have state representatives from Northeast Arkansas like Dan Sullivan, Brant Smith, Jack Ladyman, Dwight Tosh voting against the internet sales tax, and then other elected representatives over the same area are now trying to undermine the people's representatives?
You know, here's the thing, and I tell this to my kids, I tell it to my wife all the time. When you try to make sense out of an unreasonable position, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You know, so Brant Smith and Dan Sullivan, those guys that voted against it, they know, because I get their Facebook posts and things like that, and they do have a pulse, I think, on the community, and they know what the people want. And it was even reflected in the polls that I cited the other night. I have absolutely no idea how an elected official, knowing that if it was going to go to the vote, to the people for a vote, and it would be just obliterated. It would be. There would be, just like the last time they tried to increase the tax on the people. It failed.
Yeah,
in Jonesboro.
Terribly. Yeah, yes. Yeah, massively. Embarrassingly so.
Yes. So why in the world would an elected official vote to support and push forward something that they know the people that they represent don't want? I'm not a I'm not a career politician. This was my first stab at
tell us your background. So your first run for office and you won the first time. All right. So tell us what made you want to be a city councilman.
Gosh, ever since I was old enough, my dad was like that, and my dad is like that. You know, if there's something that needs to be done, he just goes and does it. You know, if there's something that needs to be done, he steps up and takes over if no one else will. And he's always been that, and I saw that as something I grew up with. So when I got older, you know, I was always, you know, if something needed to be done, no one else would do it, I just do it. And I still am like that. You know, I don't mind taking the reins. I don't mind being a voice. I don't mind speaking out for those things that I feel passionate about. And so, you know, that's what I did. And when we moved back to Jonesboro multiple years ago, decades ago, I know that this was where I was going to raise my family. And at that point, I knew good and well that I wanted to be a part of how this city grew
Of
and how
course.
this city was
Yeah.
going to go.
There's a lot of bad ideas out there.
There is. And I thought, if I could just gather the support, I knew there's people out there that thought like I did, that had my same values, my same convictions, and my same beliefs. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give this a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, that's good. What was your background before? So what do you do now?
When I came back to Jonesboro, I was executive director of a PHO, a physician hospital organization, where we contracted managed care contracts for hospitals and physician panels. I've been an HR director for the last 15 years. And done a lot of other things, in that capacity. And a matter of fact,
How did you get your limited government views? I'm curious. Because, just no offense, but, I don't know, are there a lot of limited government people writing managed care contracts? I mean, maybe. It's some,
Well, here's the thing,
know.
and I wrote that in a post today. My beliefs, convictions, and values did not come from my political beliefs. My political beliefs sprang from my Christian background. And my conservative background, my mom and dad are conservative. They believed in paying for what you got. They didn't overspend. They believed in personal responsibility. You take control. If you fail, own it.
Yeah.
If you succeed, share in your successes.
Right. Okay.
So that's sort of where I got that. And, I work so hard for what we have. I don't like to see waste. I can't stand it. And I can't stand when people say they're going to do something, but then they don't do it. Or they campaign on something, but then go out and do the right the opposite.
You suggested in your comments yesterday, before the city council, or I guess on Tuesday, we played them yesterday, that, or was it on Tuesday? Right. So what's today? Thursday?
Yes, it's Tuesday.
So I played it yesterday, it was Wednesday. I'm sorry, I'm confused. But you suggested that the money that government is getting now isn't necessarily spent appropriately, or that they're wasting, in many cases, the resources we're already giving them. So why should we allow them to take $100 million or more out of our pockets?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I don't understand that. It's like if I was a retailer, I would be almost appalled at this. Because when you've got somebody coming in, let's say I got $10 in my pocket, I would much rather have the profit margin that $10 could buy in my store than the fraction of amount of benefit that I'm going to get from a tax dollar going to the state. And to say that is going to be something good for the retailers to take $100 million of buying power, and that's net money. That's not gross. That's net money. That is, I can spend it, or I don't have to.
Yeah.
When you take $100 million out of that and shift it to the government, now I don't have any control over where that money's spent. Zero. None. I don't have an option of going and spending it at Gearhead, or going in and spending it at Skinny J's, or going and spending it at a local restaurant, or wherever. I don't have that option anymore. And if I was a local retailer, I would much rather have that money in the pockets of somebody that could come and walk into my store and spend it than to have it in the coffers of Little Rock, so that they can spend it on.
You said it was a ruse in your comments, and I thought that was a perfect way, because they're trying, the mayor of Jonesboro, and this is going on in other cities too, because the municipal league has all of them. It's the city's lobbying arm, essentially, is what the municipal league is, and they're trying to lobby for this more money. You called it a ruse, and it is. The mayor says that e-fairness is critical to the survival of small business. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that's completely inaccurate.
I do too. Matter of fact, I know of small businesses right now that are brick and mortar that depend on their internet traffic. When their business is slow in walk-through traffic, they may be over there shipping up things that they've sold on the internet.
Yes.
And it doesn't. Every single retailer in Jonesboro has that option. They can set up an online store just like that and be in an online business. They can go and they can be an out-of-state retailer to a market in Missouri, Tennessee, Louisiana, wherever they want to be, Bangkok. It doesn't matter, you know. So it doesn't matter. So they could be an out-of-state retailer, if they wanted to be and if they wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not their business model.
I know.
And that's not their business model.
And it's like,
and if it is, that's great. Go for it.
Yeah, and they say that they claim that it's e-fairness. I made the point yesterday, though, that it's not fair, though, because if you're in Indiana and all of a sudden now you're paying this unconstitutional sales tax, by the way, the Supreme Court, right now the precedent is you can't make them pay, so they're in many cases they're asking. Now, if the resolution is asking for them to collect the existing use tax that we're supposed to self-report, which I understand you said, Bobby, that you think that we should do away with that. If people, is that correct? That if we're considered tax cheats right now because of that?
Tax evaders.
Tax evaders.
Yeah, tax evaders.
Yeah.
Here's my suggestion. Here's what I did. And my dad always said, if you're gonna present a problem, offer a solution. So my solution is, let's just do away with it. Let's make Arkansas somewhere where people want to go and buy. Let's make Arkansas someplace where consumers have the power. To where if we want to see our city grow. Matter of fact, we had it was called a revenue enhancement. Not long ago. In other words, it was across the board fee hikes. On pretty much everything. But the part of it that got people just all up in arms was the stormwater drainage fee that was going to be assessed.
It's like $5 a person.
Yeah, I think it just sort of hit the fan and it died.
Washed away.
It washed away.
No pun intended.
Right now.
That's a lie.
Right now,
pun
but
intended.
It probably will come up again in the future.
They always do,
Yeah,
right?
it
See this whiteboard?
do.
Our whiteboard. Run it till it passes. They do that down in Little Rock. That's for example.
Yeah.
Down in Little Rock, internet sales tax fails, right? So what do? Well, then Asa, by the way, Governor Hutchinson says he doesn't want to call a special session. He doesn't want to call a special session to pass internet sales tax. But the Municipal League is getting all these cities to pass these resolutions. They want to get to like 300 out of 500 at least. And then Asa Hutchinson, this is what he's going to be. He's going to be like the girl that's like, to her boyfriend of like 5 years. When are you going to propose to me? When are you going to propose to me? When are you going to propose to me? And then he finally says, all right, will you marry me? And she's like, oh my goodness, you proposed. I'm so surprised. That's what Ace is. He's going to be like that. He's like, oh wow, I didn't realize all these cities wanted me to call a special session, and then he'll call the special session.
And the thing about it is, these are going to be resolutions from the city council who are supposed to be a representation of the city in which they serve. So when he gets all those, he can say, hey, you know what? I wasn't going to call it, but the overwhelming, cry for this, I had no other choice. Had no other choice.
Yeah, I know. That's what they do.
It,
and then they run it till it passes. They take an idea that's defeated, and then they find a way to bring it back.
Get it.
And that never happens when we're talking about shrinking government. There was a great bill to really reform the way we do elections and ending special elections unless you have severe circumstances. And that's a really good, I feel like, method to make sure you have the most accurate reflection of what the consent of the governor is, because more people show up to vote when you have a general election than these special elections. And it failed, right? It failed because of a state representative who thinks he should be a senator. His name's James Sturch, and he walked out after he had voted for the bill. Then he walked out. It's a whole thing. We've talked about it many times. But notice that doesn't get run until it passes. They don't do that for things that limit government or protect the taxpayers. They only do it for things that are going to give the government more money. And it really comes down to this. You said, why in the world would I ever, as an elected official, knowing if it was put to a vote of the people, right, it would completely fail. Why would I ever then vote to do that? Well, I think it's because they're listening to different sources. They're not really listening to the people. They're listening to special interest.
Well, and I think they've also got their focus off of possibly what they need to have their focus on. When you become an elected official,
That's all right.
When you become an elected official, you're in essence a servant of the people. But when you become a servant of the tax dollar that does that, then you get that and you serve that. So sometimes I think people just need to refocus
Yeah, I
and
agree.
think, what am I here for? Am I here to to secure as much money as I possibly can, even though I do it at the cost of what I told the people that I would vote for and do.
Yeah.
So I think you have to almost readjust yourself and say, okay, you know, I'm here for the people. I'm here for the people that put me in the seat. I said before, I said municipal league didn't put me here. You know, they didn't vote me in.
That was good.
You know, the people did. And there's absolutely no way on God's green earth that I was going to vote for that thing.
That was awesome. It was a great speech, and I love your facts. I love that you used some of David Crow's numbers.
I did.
About how big Arkansas government is and how we got to get that under control. But you were here, I guess you got here about 4:45. You're listening to my segment on Obamacare, private option, things like that. But mostly about just this, you know, the idea of incentives and welfare programs.
Right.
And you were telling me something. Now, you're going to have to show your age here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But you said
I'm okay with that.
All right, that's fine. You're a kickboxer. By the way, Bobby Long is a kickboxer. So if you try to pass the internet sales tax, he's just going to kick it in the face. In the face. All right. So you graduated from A State.
I did.
In
1989.
89. I thought you said 85.
Well, I graduated BIC in 85.
Okay.
Went to college. It was during my college
years. Well, in 85,
years.
I was 1. So.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All
You've
right.
already said that.
I know.
See,
I
that's the thing.
I just wanted to say it again. I wanted everyone to know that. All right.
That's terrible.
Our producer, our board op, he wasn't alive then.
You were not alive in 85?
93?
Oh, wow.
You were born in 93.
Oh,
my goodness. Okay, now I feel old.
Okay,
all right.
The tail end of 93, December 30th of 93.
So it's really 94. Okay, so
That's getting worse.
So tell me about what you were a hard
Yes.
worker. You had a job while you were in school.
Right. I grew up, small Mississippi County town, Leachville. And, gosh, I didn't know anything but work. My dad, I remember when I would mow the churchyard, he would take me out, drop me off with the lawnmower, and then he would go off somewhere, and I would just be sitting there with the lawnmower. And I would mow the churchyard. He'd come back and pick me up, And so I was in the cantaloupe fields when I was 14, graduated to watermelons when I was 16. So I didn't, I just worked for my money, because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't have any.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, first thing I did was I got a job at a grocery store. And the summer before I started school, I started working at a grocery store. And when I was going to college 2 years in, before I would go to work, if I had the opportunity, I'd go down to Earl Bell Community Center and play basketball. Well, I was down there with some friends, and I was playing basketball one day, and I noticed there were a lot of adults out there playing ball. And I got to looking around, I thought, it's the middle of the day. You're supposed to be at work. So I had to talk to some of them. I said, well, what do you do? Do you work at night? What do you do? I said, no, I'm on disability.
Back in 1985.
I said, you're on disability? You just dumped. How does that work?
Oh gosh, what a problem! I mean,
Yeah.
that just
And I had to leave
illustrates.
early so
go
I
to
could
work.
get to work.
Yeah.
And then go to school.
Wow. That's crazy. What and see and
Yeah.
that's an issue. That's an issue. That's people exploiting the system and things like that. And anyway, so Bobby Long, I appreciate it, sir, coming on the program. I appreciate what you did. And where does it go from here? I mean, now it's past 8-4, and hopefully Asa won't call a special session.
He won't. But the good thing about it is, I'll be watching and I'll be looking.
Yeah.
And I'll be looking over things. And if there's something that comes up like this in the future, it just doesn't have to be about this.
Yeah.
It can be about anything.
If there are any city councilmen listening across the state right now, and your city's trying to do something similar, going to do the municipal league's bidding, and I would love to talk to you. I'd love to have you on and let me know what we can do to help.
I believe that video is even up on your.
Yeah.
Is it up on your?
Yeah, we've got
thing?
Bobby
clip?
Long's clip, his video, and what he said and the information he had is up at our Facebook page. I retweeted it as well. It's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Check it out. Alderman Bobby Long, we appreciate it, sir.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Love to have you on again soon. Folks, we're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.